Hello everybody and welcome back to Exploration Mode, where this time we are looking at Power and Revolution 2019 edition, which I did get a key from the developer for. Now, from what I can tell, this isn't a recent release. However, there is apparently a large patch that recently came out that fixes a lot of the problems the community has with the game, and based on looking at the Steam reviews, oh boy do they have problems with the game. A lot of them tend to say things like the game itself is really good, but really buggy, or they tend to be people upset that this was a full release when it was essentially the same game as the previous one. Also, I would like to point out, in the options menu, in the sound options, you get this, which is not very helpful. From what I can tell, this one is voices, this one is music, this one is overall, and this one is sound effects, but it doesn't tell you that. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come in the interface. However, as I was saying, the Steam reviews, when I first got the key, were mostly negative. They have since shifted over to mixed, which I guess means that this patch is having an effect? Maybe. We'll take a look at it ourselves. However, I will fully admit that this format is maybe not necessarily the best way to do this, because this is a blind look, and from what I can tell, this is a very in-depth game. So we'll see how far I actually get on this. I ain't running the tutorial. Let's just dive in. What could possibly go wrong? I'm sure we will definitely go wrong. Okay, so we have all of these various scenarios to select a country and play its leader on January 1st, 2019. So we cannot access these scenarios yet. Presidential wedding in 2016? Wait, what? Get married soon to boost your image in the run-up to the elections. In France. Okay. 2016 US elections. Okay, I see. So, like, this is just essentially free play in 2019. Play as the Democratic opponents in 2019. Chaos 2030, Global Menace, etc., etc. Okay. So it looks like this is all pretty much modern day stuff. And I think we're just going to play in free mode for right now. And I'm going to leave all of these just at the default, I think. And we need to select a country, presumably. Yes. So I did notice that in the menu you could actually click on the globe and select any nation. But it seems like for this particular nation, it is recommending... Wait, you can select multiple nations? Okay, that's a little confusing. I was gonna... Oh, it was just scrolled down. Okay, that explains a lot. I was gonna say, is that just like recommended nations? If so, why are some of these on the recommended list? But they weren't. So, the question is, what do we play? Well, I'm most familiar with US politics. That said, I kinda don't want to get into US politics. That's not going to go well for anybody. Should we just pick something at random? We can just pick something at random. Okay, so I'm not even looking, and I am going to stop now. Okay. And once again, I'm not even looking, and I am going to stop now. Okay, that I missed. But I was closest to Japan, or alternately, I was like here, so maybe I need to scroll up and play as Jamaica. Oh boy. A parliamentary monarchy, conservative rightist political tendency with 3 million people. I assume that's what that means. Capital is Kingston. It has 4,245 square miles of area. One region. Okay. I guess this might be an interesting start. I don't know. I picked it completely at random. Let's just dive right in. Okay, so Characters are currently fixed. Oh, they can be randomized. I gotcha. Now we can also add another country. But we can't add the United States now? Why is that red? Oh, just because that's what we had selected. I gotcha. Okay, interesting, interesting. Well, I think we're only going to play as one nation. But let's go ahead and randomize the characters. Can we do that? Oh, we can name this guy. I guess we'll go with Daniel Flewis. I suspect that is the current PM of Jamaica? Conservative Liberal Party. Okay. Okay, so we can play theoretically as any of these people? Well, we'll just go with the default. Okay. Geopolitical Simulator is first of all a game. The scenarios and events taking place in it are political fiction. All names, photos, and symbols displayed in the game are also fictitious. They forgot a period there. Any resemblance with situations, facts, or people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Well, when I went into the tutorial, it wanted me to play as Tronald Dump, so I'm not sure that that's actually true. Oh, an Elon Musk quote. Okay. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it's a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. Also, I don't think that that's coincidental. Just saying. This is almost as long of a loading time as one of my games.
For the new year, the head of state lavishly hosted 100 influential feminists from around the world. The party was in full swing until early this morning. Some confirmed opponents to the current government were also on the guest list. One of them told us that this initiative was beneficial for women's causes, even if deep down the head of state undoubtedly had an electoral agenda. The final word came from the oldest woman in the nation, who stated that she was delighted to be able to dance without being hit on.
Okay, so, that's... Oh my, what's all this going on? Okay, so the Minister for Economy wants us to bridge the gap a little. Prime Minister, the latest data on income inequality is out, and it's not good for our country, which is at the bottom of the list. Perhaps we should adjust our fiscal and earnings policies slightly to prevent a wave of protests or even popular uprisings that are statistically likely when gaps are so glaring. Okay. Oh, we've got more people coming in. Okay. Oh, time is ticking forward. I'm going to pause this because I don't know what's happening quite yet. So we are playing as Jamaica, which of course is right here. Okay. First impression on the zoom is simply that it feels like it could use a little bit of linear interpolation, but I'm not gonna be too upset about that. Can I go around with WASDA? I cannot. Although that did start the game playing in normal speed mode. Interesting. So we only have the one region in Jamaica, as opposed to a country like, not the Caymans, as opposed to a country like the United States. The controls are a little different than I'm used to from Paradox games. Right-click to drag instead of middle-click to drag, which is interesting. Middle-click appears to immediately zoom to the mouse cursor. Yeah. And then left-click, of course, is your bandbox. Makes sense. So the game takes place on this rather nice satellite image. Although I get why the borders look the way they do. It's because there's this white outline around it when you zoom in, which looks nice when you zoom in. But if it was me, again, this is a very minor criticism. If it was me, I would simply make it so that as you zoom out, that white border fades out. It doesn't really matter, but it's just something I would do. Okay, so what do we got here in Jamaica? We've got Blue Mountain Peak. We've got Kingston, which is our national capital. Population in thousands of 590. And that's 20% of our population. We've got 3,950 soldiers there. There's also Spanish Town here. And Black River Naval Base. Okay. Interesting. So what are these here? Ah, okay. That looks like something I would do. Not necessarily the best way to do that sort of thing, but definitely the kind of thing that I would do. Okay, so that guy wanted us to do something about our income inequality, right? So perhaps in the taxation tab? Okay. Interesting. So our state budget in billions of dollars is currently 4.25 billion, and in 2018 it was 4.15. Deficit in percent to GDP. We're not currently running a deficit. That's interesting. Okay. So we've got our value added tax here of 15.37%, tax on large fortunes of 1.4%, and our advisor did just tell us that we probably want to attempt to bridge the income gap a little bit. So we probably want to bump up the tax on large fortunes, inheritance tax, maybe the real estate tax. But this is a lot of granular taxes. I like that a lot. So let's maybe bump this up to, oh. That's in iterations of 1? Can we go like to 1.5%? Yes, we can. Excellent. Inheritance tax, maybe to 9%. Like that. Real estate tax to maybe 8.5%. Employer social security payments, maybe to 16.5%. Just small amounts of attempting to bridge that gap. Okay. So this is going to cost us 6.7 million. From what I can tell. Oh, I dropped the gun tax accident. Oh. Okay. This is at like 11%. Or something like that. I'm actually going to cancel this and put that back to where it was. And we're just going to put this back at 1.5%. And then 9%. And then I have to be careful down here. We'll put this at 9% as well. Employer social security payments up to 16.5%. Company tax will go to 26.5%. And yeah, this is looking like it's going to make us an extra 20 million, but that's not the point. Okay, we'll confirm that. And that should theoretically bridge that gap a little bit. Okay. So what else do we need to do? Well, we need to battle malnutrition. Prime Minister, we should invest a little more in food control. It's a very small expense and will guarantee the entire population, especially infants and children, a good food supply that is healthy and without bacteria, viruses, or chemicals. This should be a national priority. Indeed, that kind of should. So, is that under farming? Monitoring food safety, presumably? How much does that cost? 2 million, 27 million. So that's our 1-year forecast. This would basically completely wipe out our surplus if we took it all the way up. So let's drop that down to maybe about here. We'll confirm that. The changes have been made. The ministry will revise the 2019 budget within 1 week. Okay. What does this guy want us to do? He wants us to put a tax on carbon. Prime Minister, several countries have already instituted a carbon tax on their carbon dioxide emissions. It's proven to be a deterrent and, more importantly, can be reinvested into ecological transitions. Globally, it's been successful in curbing those emissions that are responsible for a significant portion of the rise in temperatures. I would suggest that we also implement it so we too play a role in building a new world, sustainable for all of us. Our Minister for the Environment is saying that. Okay, so I'm guessing that's in here? Or is that just in the taxation? Because it is a tax. Carbon tax in here? Doesn't seem to be. Energy, perhaps? Now, surely it would be under environment. Determine the tax reduction for using clean energies. That's not really what we're going for. Where is it? Industry? I don't see that, but I do see that we can subsidize particular things, which is kind of cool. Like, I'm probably going to dig into this game a little bit more. I can actually see this one developing into a full playthrough. This is actually pretty fascinating. Let's see. Now, where would we do a carbon tax? Finance? Why is finance in this particular tab rather than this particular tab? Oh, because these are in the various industries, I guess. And then this, we have like laws and army, transportation, health, science, education, culture. Okay, yeah, I gotcha. So where exactly do we set up a carbon tax? I don't actually see an option. I'm sure it's here somewhere, I just have no idea. So let's move on. Climate objectives reminder. Every year, we examine the level of CO2 emissions worldwide, and we personally inform every world leader of their progress. Prime Minister, the UN is now going to personally inform each leader of projections related to global warming around the world, and especially the collective efforts implemented for reducing the emissions of CO2. So we're coming at the beginning of each year until 2030, the date which, as you recall, we set the goal to reduce CO2 emissions by 45% in comparison today. Get to work and we'll see you next year. Okay. So here's the actual information. Prime Minister, in order to combat global warming, we can of course reduce CO2 emissions, but it is also possible to look to CO2 capture as a solution. There are various types, and they would not only help lower emissions immediately, but also absorb some of the CO2 that has been accumulating in the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. Add to that a process that converts captured CO2 into usable hydrocarbon to use as fuel, and it becomes a source of renewable energy. These processes, apparently, are still experimental, but by investing in this sector and in research, and then developing the necessary infrastructures, this could prove to be very effective in regards to our goals on global warming, as well as profitable on the economic level. Interesting. Okay, so education wants greater funding. Education is suffering from a clear lack of materials and equipment. Added to the leniency of the teachers' training, the ruin of our education system, if you'll allow me to say, is hanging before our very eyes. Okay, so they want more funding for education, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. We were currently 800 million in the black, I guess. Well, let's bump up the... what do we want to do? Aids and grants a little bit. And then something along the lines of... I mean, we probably don't want to go too ham on this. I would love to just crank up the education, but realistically, we also have to keep in mind the finances. So let's go ahead and just bump up the teacher training a little bit, supervision and guidance a little bit. We'll spend like 100 million. I think we have 800 million to spare. So that should give us a little bit of cushion. School equipment and material, we'll put 2 additional stars in. Student accommodation, renewal and maintenance, teaching of local languages, classes for the exceptionally gifted. Oh, wow. Where did that cost come from? Was that student accommodation? Renewal and maintenance? Yeah, it was renewal and maintenance. Okay. We'll add a little bit for classes for the exceptionally gifted and education policy on gender equality. Like, policy shouldn't have a cost to it, right? But I guess that increases the number of students that we have. Okay. Oh, now we are, I think, losing almost $1 billion a year. Is that accurate? Let's take a look at our actual budget here. Okay, so our expenditures are... Okay, we're slightly below our revenues according to this, but the budget might not be updated yet. That's definitely something we should keep in mind. Okay, so we have a list of requests. We have a meeting request from the Chancellor of Austria. Okay. Sure. Why not? Excellent. And then we can get rid of these requests, because we already looked at all of those. Okay. So, I think we are perhaps ready to tick forward a little bit. I don't know how much there is outside of these menus. Like, you don't seem to be able to select regions the way you can in a Paradox game, for example. So let's just charge forth and see what exactly ends up happening in the world. I do want to keep an eye on that budget, though. Okay, it looks like we are slightly running a deficit. So let's actually adjust our taxation a little bit. And I would like to perhaps... Wait. The tax changes didn't go through. Okay. Let's go ahead and... I can't change these? Oh, this bill is being debated in the Assembly. The project is creating a rift in Parliament. The vote will take place on 1/15/2019. Okay, so that just doesn't go into effect. So where do we see Parliament at? Parliament. Okay, so the Socialist Labour League currently holds 48%, and the Conservative Liberal Party, which is us, currently holds 33 seats, or 52%. So we have a very narrow lead. And we've got... Okay, all of these are individual votes. Good to know. So we're not going to see our income from the vote come through until these are passed. And the nearest vote is on the 9th. So we'll just continue going forward until then. Okay. We've got some people coming in here. Your commitment to defending family values is a model for the whole of humanity. You're setting yourself up today as a herald for the civilization of tomorrow. Did I defend family values? I don't know that I did, but whatever. The Association for Women's Rights president, who is not a woman, says, undoubtedly, you will remain the face of the combat for gender equality in our country. You can count on all of us and on our vote. Good. I mean, we did just increase the education equality, so that's probably what they're happy about. And then this one here. You've taken the humanitarian issue seriously, and your commitment is the most sincere. In the name of the poorest, please accept our thanks and our support in continuing the fight. From the Human Sharing and Solidarity Foundation's president, James Bridman. Okay, excellent. We're probably going to make some enemies with this too, though. So let's see what exactly we do end up. Now, I'm wondering, is this our approval rating up here? People are pretty unhappy with our finances, I think. We're at... I'm not sure what our approval rating is. Okay, that's unemployment, blah, 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 blah. Freight transportation jammed. Hang on now.
The alarming situation of freight transport may have a negative impact on the economy. If businesses cannot access their raw materials and dispatch their goods in a timely manner, the whole national economy will be impaired. In short, it's imperative to act before the transport problem brings down our GDP.
Specifically with freight transportation, huh? Okay, so rail transport? I don't know. It had kind of a... Maybe we need to increase our costs here? I mean, that's relatively cheap. That's gonna spend even more money, though. Okay. So, I don't know if that's going to actually address the problem or not. We'll find out, I guess. Global warming is not doing well. Social inequality, overpopulation, armed conflicts, nuclear conflict, and unemployment. So the only thing that... Actually, none of these things are doing particularly well. Some of them are doing okay. Oh, hello. Thank you for taking care of ecology. You're giving our country a big breath of fresh air. It's really commendable. Am I, though? What did... I didn't do anything with the environment that I know of.
I must inform you that you can, at your leisure, consult a summary of our files on terrorist groups targeting our country. We will list the principal suspects likely to be leaders of organizations on our soil or to mount a terror operation. This file will expand according to the gathering of intelligence, and data sheets can also be removed if we determine that a suspect no longer poses a danger. By the way, I must tell you that the state's investment in the analysis of data and anti-terrorism will allow us to cross-check our information more quickly. We urge you to consult our file regularly and give us directives if you believe that we need to put a suspect under surveillance or proceed with an arrest. In closing, one final remark. An arrest without evidence is likely to provoke an outcry among human rights organizations and be viewed differently by public opinion.
I mean, that makes sense. I don't know that we have anybody that needs to be put on the terror list right now, though. Okay. So, I mean, I can see already that this is a very, very in-depth game, and we've barely scratched the surface here, which is a good thing, in my opinion. That's an interesting way of suggesting a city. Okay, so we got a disaster in Australia. Region affected Tasmania. Estimation is in progress. Do we want to send emergency aid, is the question. Well, what type of... Oh, it's a wildfire in Tasmania. Okay. I am not sure we can afford to send emergency aid. How much is that going to cost? Oh, we can actually specify. Okay, one thing I would like to see from Paradox Games is the resource bar up top. That would be nice if I just could see how much money I had. But I think that's our current budget. Like, how much money do we have on hand, or does it not even matter? Does it just get added into the budget? I don't think we're gonna send any aid, though. Sorry, Tasmania. We're Jamaica. What do you expect us to do about it? We'll get there eventually, I'm sure. So, I'm sure that there's, like... I know that there's a combat system where you, like, take control of individual units on a different map. I know that that's a thing that happens. We're definitely not going to see that. I don't know what the combat system looks like. Like I said, we've barely scratched the surface here. However, it is pretty much time to put an end to this right now. So that was a quick look at this particular game, Power and Revolution 2019 edition. And overall, I mean, I didn't run into any bugs that I know of in this very brief playthrough. That said, the reviews on Steam do indicate that there are a lot of bugs, and perhaps if I do a full playthrough of this game, we'll run into some of those. It's currently $49.99 on Steam, which is a little on the high end, in my opinion, but, you know, if you can get it, and it looks like this game is deep enough to command that kind of price. However, for right now, I'm going to have to put a cut in here, and I will see you all next time.